I've been David Reynolds for 45 years, and for most of them, I thought I knew exactly who I was. A logistics manager who spent his days buried in spreadsheets, coordinating shipments, and solving problems that most people never thought about. Not glamorous work, but it built something real. A 4-bedroom house in Oakwood Heights, college funds for 3 kids, and what I believed was a marriage strong enough to weather anything. Melissa and I met in college when we were both drowning, in student debt and surviving on ramen. She was 22, all fire and ambition, always pushing for more while I was the steady one who kept us grounded. We balanced each other perfectly, or so I told myself for 19 years. Our kids became my world the moment each one arrived. Sarah, 17 now, inherited her mother's sharp mind, but thankfully my sense of loyalty. Michael, at 15, was all teenage rebellion on the surface, but had a heart that couldn't stand injustice. Danny, my 12-year-old, still looked at me like I could fix anything broken in his world. I worked late shifts at the warehouse before I moved into management, picked up weekend work when Melissa wanted to go back for her MBA. Did whatever it took so my family never felt the pinch of wanting something we couldn't afford. Meanwhile, Melissa climbed the corporate ladder at Morrison Enterprises, each promotion, making her hungrier for the next one. We'd built something real. 20 years of mortgage payments, soccer games, anniversary dinners at that Italian place downtown where we'd had our first real date. I thought we were partners. I thought we were solid. Then came that Tuesday night in January. "David, we need to talk," she said, sitting across from me at our kitchen table, the one we'd bought at an estate sale our first year married. Her hands were folded, her wedding ring catching the overhead light. "About?" I asked. "Richard Morrison offered me the regional director position," she replied. "That's fantastic, Mel. You've been working toward," I started to say. "There's a condition," she interrupted. Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. "What kind of condition?" I asked. She looked me straight in the eye. No hesitation, no shame. "He wants to sleep with me. Just once. To seal the deal." The words hung between us like a blade. I waited for the punchline, for her to laugh and say she was testing me, but her face remained deadly serious. "You're asking me for permission to—" "Your boss?" I said. "I'm asking for a hall pass, one night. For our future," she replied calmly. My chair scraped against the floor as I stood. "Our future? You think our future involves you whoring yourself out for a promotion? Don't be dramatic, David. This is business," she said dismissively. "Business?" My voice was rising, but I didn't care. "This is our marriage. 20 years, 3 kids, and you're sitting here asking me to let you spread your legs for Richard Morrison because he dangled a title in front of you?" "You don't understand the corporate world," she began. "I understand that if that's the price, you walk away. You quit. Tomorrow," I shot back. Her laugh was cold, unfamiliar. "I've worked 8 years for this opportunity. I'm not throwing it away because you're insecure." "Insecure? You're asking permission to cheat," I exclaimed. "I'm being honest with you," she fired back. "No, Melissa, honest would have been telling Morrison to go to hell the second he suggested it," I replied. We fought for another hour, accusations flying, voices raised, until finally I grabbed a pillow and headed for the guest room. But as I lay there in the dark, something gnawed at me. The way she'd asked, it wasn't really asking, it was testing, like she wanted retroactive permission for something already done. Her phrasing echoed, "Just once." How would she know it would only be once unless they'd already discussed the details? Why was she so confident about this promotion unless certain agreements had already been made? That night, lying alone in the guest room, I realized something that made my blood run cold. She hadn't been asking for permission. She'd been asking for forgiveness. The next morning, I started paying attention in ways I never had before. 20 years of marriage had made me complacent, trusting, but 20 years in logistics had also taught me that every system has patterns, and every pattern tells a story. Wednesday morning, Melissa left for work at 7:15, same as always, but her outfit was different. A new dress I'd never seen, higher, heels than usual. When had she started dressing like that for the office? I opened our shared credit card statement on my phone. 3 charges at Nordstrom in the past month, totaling $800. Victoria's Secret, $200, 6 weeks ago. When was the last time she'd worn anything from Victoria's Secret for me? Over the next 2 weeks, I became a detective in my own life. Started keeping a notebook in my truck, documenting everything. Late meetings that stretched past 9 p.m., Tuesdays, Thursdays, and the occasional Friday. Always with Morrison's team, she said. Always crucial for the promotion. I drove past her office one Thursday at 8:30 p.m. during the first week of observation. The executive floor was dark except for 2 offices, Morrison's corner suite and one other. But Melissa's car wasn't in the parking garage. I circled 3 times to be sure. The following Tuesday, exactly 1 week after the hall pass conversation, I told her I was working late on inventory. Instead, I parked across from the Marriott downtown at 7 p.m. At 7:23, Morrison's black Mercedes pulled into the valet lane. At 7:31, Melissa's white Lexus followed. They didn't even try to stagger their arrivals by more than 10 minutes. I sat in my truck for 3 hours, watching the hotel entrance, my hands gripping the steering wheel, until my knuckles went white. Part of me wanted to storm in, to confront them. But the strategic part, the part that had learned to think 3 moves ahead, knew better. Anger without evidence was just noise. The receipts started painting a picture. Lunch at Capital, $93 on a Wednesday when she'd supposedly been in back-to-back meetings. Her car GPS, which synced to her phone, showed a trip to Morrison's house on Riverside Drive on a Saturday when she'd said she was shopping with her sister. But it was the small things that hurt most. The way she'd suddenly password-protected her phone after years of openness. How she'd shower immediately when she came home late, claiming she felt gross from the office. The new lingerie I found in her gym bag, tags removed but never worn. For me. Michael asked me one night during the second week why Mom missed his basketball game. I'd told him she had an important presentation. Sarah, sharper than her years, just looked at me with knowing sadness. "She's been missing a lot lately, hasn't she, Dad?" she observed quietly. By the end of those 2 weeks, I had a timeline. Morrison had become regional VP 8 months ago. But the real changes, the new clothes, late meetings, and secretive behavior had started 4 months ago, in September. That matched the deleted texts we'd later discover. And now, in January, the hall pass request. She hadn't been asking permission for something new. She'd been trying to legitimize something that had been going on for 4 months. Friday night of the second week, I found the smoking gun. While doing laundry, I checked her car for dry cleaning. Under the passenger seat was a receipt from the Marriott restaurant. Timestamp 11:47 p.m. Tuesday, 5 days ago. The same night she'd texted me about being stuck in a boring presentation that was running late. Bottle service. Champagne. $430 charged to a room. Room 1247, the receipt showed. Morrison's name wasn't on it, but I recognized the last 4 digits of the credit card. His corporate Amex, the one he'd used at a client dinner I'd attended 6 months ago. I sat on our bed, holding that receipt, and felt something inside me shift from hurt to cold determination. She'd made her choice. Now I had to make mine. Nicholas Harper came recommended by Tom from accounting, whose divorce had been brutal but successful. "He's expensive," Tom had warned, "but he's worth every penny if you need dirt that'll hold up in court." I met Nicholas at a coffee shop 3 weeks after the hall pass conversation. He was younger than expected, maybe 35, with the kind of forgettable face that probably served him well in his profession. "Infidelity case?" he asked, sliding into the booth across from me. "My wife and her boss. Been going on for 4 months, I believe, since September," I replied. "You think or you know?" he pressed. I showed him my documentation from the past 2 weeks. The receipts, the timeline, the GPS records. He reviewed everything with professional detachment, occasionally nodding. "This is good preliminary work," he said, "but you need more if you want leverage in court. Photos, communications, financial records showing misuse of marital assets. I can get all of that." "How much?" I asked. "5,000 retainer, probably another 5 to 10 depending on how deep we need to dig. Worth it if you're protecting significant assets," he explained. I thought about our retirement accounts, the house, the kids' college funds. "Do it," I decided. The next 4 weeks were an education in how sloppy cheaters could be when they thought they were clever. Nicholas had Melissa and Morrison under surveillance within 48 hours. His team was invisible, but everywhere. The first batch of photos arrived the following Tuesday, 3.5 weeks after the hall pass conversation. Melissa and Morrison entering the Marriott at lunch, his hand on her lower back. Them leaving 90 minutes later, her hair hastily fixed, his tie askew. The timestamp showed 12:15 p.m. to 1:43 p.m., during what her calendar listed as client strategy session. During the second week of professional surveillance, 4 weeks after the hall pass conversation, Nicholas brought more evidence. Photos of them at Morrison's house on Saturday afternoon when Melissa claimed to be at a spa day with friends. Their cars parked at a scenic overlook on Highway 9 Tuesday evening. The silhouettes in Morrison's Mercedes were unmistakable, even from Nicholas's telephoto lens. But the real treasure came during the third week of surveillance when Nicholas brought in a digital forensics expert. Cloud backups are beautiful things when people don't realize they exist. Melissa had deleted her texts with Morrison from her phone, but they lived on in the iPhone backup from 4 months ago. I sat in Nicholas's office, reading their messages on his laptop, each one a knife between my ribs. The messages went back. Exactly 4 months to September, Morrison, Sept 15. "Can't wait to have you all to myself tonight." Melissa, "David thinks I'm at book club. We have until midnight." Melissa, Oct. 2. "God, I needed that. You make me feel alive again." Morrison, "You deserve someone who appreciates what a goddess you are." Morrison, Nov. 20. "When are you going to leave him?" Melissa, "Spring, after Danny's birthday. Need to get my ducks in a row first." Melissa, Dec. 8. "David's so clueless. Asked why I was dressed up today. Told him it was for a presentation." Morrison, "Poor bastard has no idea what he's lost. The messages chronicled exactly 4 months of betrayal from September through January. They mocked my clothes, my job, my attempt to be romantic on our anniversary. They discussed their future. Morrison would leave his wife Patricia after his stock options vested. Melissa would take the kids and enough alimony to maintain her lifestyle. The kids are the hardest part," one of her messages from November read. "But they'll adjust. Kids are resilient, like they were furniture to be divided, not people who loved and trusted her." Nicholas also uncovered financial improprieties during the 4th week of his investigation. Morrison had been billing their hotel rooms to his corporate account as client entertainment for the past 2 months. Melissa had withdrawn cash advances from our joint credit cards, $12,000. Over the past 4 months, that had gone to God knows what. A friend at the bank showed Nicholas records of a separate account Melissa had opened 2 months ago in November, already containing $30,000 transferred from our joint savings. 6 weeks after the hall pass conversation, after 2 weeks of my own investigation and 4 weeks with Nicholas, I met with Sharon Winters, the best divorce attorney in the city, armed with Nicholas's evidence. She reviewed everything with the expression of someone who'd seen it all before. "This is bulletproof," she said. "Infidelity over 4 months, financial fraud, conspiracy to hide assets. With this evidence and the prenup you signed, she'll be lucky to get standard visitation and minimal support." "What about the kids?" I asked. "Document everything about her absence from their lives. Missed events, late nights, emotional neglect. Courts favor stable parents, and right now that's clearly you," she advised. Over the final week before confronting the children, week 7 since the hall pass conversation, I quietly secured everything important. copied crucial documents, changed passwords on my personal accounts, moved half our liquid assets to a separate account as Sharon advised, all legal, all by the book. Nicholas called on a Thursday evening of week 6. Got something interesting. Morrison's wife hired her own PI 2 weeks ago. Seems you're not the only one who noticed something off, he informed me. You think she'd be willing to coordinate? I asked. Already reached out through channels. She's very interested in comparing notes, he replied. The hardest part wasn't gathering the evidence, it was deciding how to tell my kids that their mother wasn't the woman they thought she was. But they deserved to hear it from me before the world found out. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzling, exactly 7 weeks after Melissa's hall pass request. Melissa had left at dawn for her team-building retreat. Nicholas had already confirmed it was a weekend at Morrison's lake house. His wife, Patricia, was visiting her sister in Boston, conveniently. I made pancakes, the kids' favorite, and asked them to join me in the living room after breakfast. They knew something was wrong. I could see it in Sarah's worried eyes, Michael's defensive posture, Danny's nervous fidgeting. I need to tell you something difficult, I began, my throat already tight. About Mom and our family. Are you getting divorced? Sarah asked quietly. 17 years old and already too perceptive? Yes, I answered. Danny's face crumpled. Is it because you fight now? You can just stop fighting. It's more complicated than that, buddy, I said gently. I pulled out a folder, carefully curated with age-appropriate evidence. Your mom has been having an affair with her boss, Mr. Morrison. It's been going on for 4 months since September. The silence stretched until Michael exploded. You're lying! I showed them the photos. Nothing explicit, just Melissa and Morrison entering hotels, holding hands at restaurants, embracing in parking lots. All dated from the past month of surveillance. I showed them her credit card statements with charges, during times she'd missed their events over the past 4 months. I let them read a few of the tamer text messages from October and November, the ones where she called our family life suffocating, and referred to the kids as obligations. Sarah was crying silently, tears streaming down her face as she read. Michael's hands were clenched into fists, his jaw tight with rage. Danny just looked lost, like his world had tilted off its axis. How long have you known? Sarah asked. I suspected after she asked for a hall pass 7 weeks ago. I started. She what? Michael interrupted, standing up and pacing now. She asked you to let her cheat? She said it was for a promotion, but I realized she was already involved with him. I've spent the last 6 weeks, 2 weeks on my own, then 4 weeks with a private investigator, finding out the truth. I explained. Is that why she missed my science fair 2 months ago? Danny asked quietly. And Michael's basketball playoffs last month? And Sarah's violin recital 6 weeks ago? I nodded, and Danny's young face hardened in a way that broke my heart. I heard her on the phone last month, Sarah admitted. Laughing about something, saying David would die if he knew. I thought maybe she was planning a surprise for your birthday. She called you boring, Michael said suddenly. 6 weeks ago when her friend Carol was over. Said you had no ambition, that you were content being mediocre. Carol looked uncomfortable. These revelations came pouring out. 4 months of small betrayals they'd noticed but hadn't understood. Melissa's impatience with family dinners starting in October, her constant phone checking during Danny's games since November, her new habit of criticizing me in front of them that began around the same time. What happens now? Sarah asked, ever practical. Monday morning, exactly 8 weeks after she asked for the hall pass, I'm filing for divorce. I'm seeking primary custody. You'll still see your mom, but this will be your primary home, I told them. Good, Michael said flatly. I don't want to live with a liar. Michael, I began. No, Dad. She made her choice. She chose him over us, over you. After everything you've done, all the extra shifts you worked so she could get her MBA, all the times you put her career first, she chose some rich asshole who probably just wants to bang his secretary, he said angrily. Language, I said automatically. But my heart wasn't in the correction. "Can we stay here?" Danny asked. "In our house?" "That's the plan. I'll do everything I can to keep your lives stable," I promised. Sarah moved first, wrapping her arms around me. Then Danny, then even angry Michael. We sat there, the four of us holding each other while rain pattered against the windows. "I'm proud of you, Dad," Sarah whispered, "for not letting her get away with it." "She could have just asked for a divorce," Michael said into my shoulder. "If she was unhappy 4 months ago, she could have been honest. We would have understood. But this is unforgivable." That evening, as I tucked Danny into bed, he looked up at me with eyes too knowing for 12 years old. "Dad, when are you going to make Mom pay for what she did?" he asked. I smoothed his hair back, kissing his forehead. "Monday, son. Everything changes Monday." Monday arrived crisp and clear, exactly 8 weeks after the hall pass conversation, a perfect March morning that felt full of possibility. I was at my lawyer's office by 7 a.m., signing the final papers. Sharon had everything prepared: divorce petition, custody arrangement, financial freeze orders, and a cease and desist regarding asset transfers. "The process server will hit her at 9:15, Sharon confirmed, during the Monday morning staff meeting as requested. "And Patricia Morrison?" I asked. "Her package will be delivered simultaneously to her office," she replied. I'd coordinated with Patricia through our lawyers over the past week. She wanted her own revenge served cold and public. We'd shared evidence, strengthening both our cases. She'd been gracious, even sympathetic, despite her own pain. At 9 a.m., I was parked across from Melissa's office building, watching through binoculars I'd borrowed from Michael's camping gear. I needed to see this, to witness the moment her carefully constructed lies collapsed. Through the conference room windows on the 3rd floor, I could see the Monday meeting in progress. Morrison at the head of the table, Melissa to his right. Their body language carefully professional. 10 other employees around the table, PowerPoints presumably flying. At 9:15, the door opened. A uniformed process server entered, causing heads to turn. I watched him scan the room, identify Melissa, and approach. The envelope he handed her was thick. I'd made sure of that. Even from this distance, I could see her confusion turn to horror as she opened it. The photos Nicholas had taken over the past month spilled onto the conference table. Her and Morrison at the hotel, in his car, at his house. Her colleagues recoiled. Morrison stood up abruptly, and Melissa's face went from red to white in seconds. Morrison tried to grab the photos, but they'd scattered. Everyone had seen. The process server was already heading for Morrison with his own envelope, courtesy of Patricia's lawyer. My phone buzzed. Text from Patricia. "Direct hit. Richard's being served now. His assistant just quit on the spot." By 9:30, my phone was lighting up with texts from Melissa. I didn't read them. By 10 a.m., Morrison's wife had arrived at his office. I knew because Nicholas was there, documenting everything for Patricia's case. The screaming match in the executive suite was apparently audible from the elevator banks. At noon, I sent my email to HR at Morrison Enterprises. Subject line: formal complaint regarding inappropriate superior-subordinate relationship. Attached were receipts showing company resources used for their affair over the past 2 months, evidence of preferential treatment, and text messages. From the past 4 months discussing quid pro quo arrangements for Melissa's promotion. Sharon called at 2 p.m. Melissa's been suspended pending investigation. Morrison, too. My contact says termination is likely for both by end of week. I picked up the kids from school early, wanting them home before Melissa arrived. We ordered pizza and tried to maintain normalcy, but everyone was tense, waiting. She walked through the door at 6:47 p.m. that Monday evening, exactly 8 weeks after her hall pass request. Her face blotchy from crying, her usually perfect hair disheveled. She stopped short when she saw us all in the living room, her suitcases packed and waiting by the door. "David, please," she began. "The kids have something to say." I interrupted. Sarah stood first. 17 years of poise despite her pain. We know everything, Mom. The 4-month affair, the lies, the money you stole, the things you said about Dad, about us. I never, Melissa started. We saw the texts, Michael interrupted. From November, where you called us obligations, where you laughed about Dad being clueless, where you and Morrison planned your future without us. Melissa's mouth opened and closed, no words coming. I don't understand, Danny said quietly. How could you choose him over us? We're your family. It's complicated, she tried to explain. No, I said, standing. It's simple. You made choices. For 4 months since September, you chose him. You chose lies. You chose to mock the man who loved you and neglect the children who needed you. Now we're choosing to protect ourselves from further harm. You can't keep me from my children, she protested. The custody arrangement allows supervised visitation every other weekend. Sharon has the details, I informed her. Supervised? You bastard, she spat. You exposed them to your affair partner, missed crucial events in their lives over the past 4 months, and stole $30,000 from their college funds over the past 2 months. Yes, supervised, I stated firmly. She looked at each child, seeing no sympathy, no weakness to exploit. This is your father poisoning you against me, she accused. Stop. Sarah's voice was ice. Just stop. We have eyes. We have ears. We noticed when you started treating Dad like an ATM and us like inconveniences back in October. We're not stupid, Mom. We're just done. Melissa grabbed her suitcases, mascara running now, hands shaking. At the door, she turned back. I loved you all, she said desperately. No, Michael replied flatly. You loved the idea of us. The Facebook posts about your perfect family. But when it came to choosing between us and your exciting new life, you chose him. Every time for 4 months. As her taillights disappeared down our street that Monday night in March, I realized I hadn't just ended a marriage. I'd held up a mirror that showed everyone who Melissa really was, and she'd have to live with that reflection forever. September arrived with unusual warmth, 6 months after that devastating Monday in March. I stood at the kitchen window watching Danny practice basketball drills Michael had taught him. Sarah was at the dining table working on college applications, occasionally asking my opinion on essay topics. The divorce had been finalized in June, 3 months after the confrontation. Thanks to the prenup and Sharon's aggressive representation, I kept the house, primary custody, and most of our assets. Melissa got standard visitation, minimal alimony for 2 years, and a reputation in ruins. She lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Riverside now, working part-time at a small marketing firm that didn't care about her past. Morrison Enterprises had fired both her and Richard in late March, within a week of that Monday confrontation, after the HR investigation revealed extensive misuse of company resources over the past 2 months. The industry blacklisting was swift and thorough. Morrison himself had fared worse. Patricia had taken him for everything: the house, the cars, his retirement accounts. She'd gotten full custody of their 2 kids after presenting evidence of his serial infidelity. Turns out Melissa wasn't his first office romance, just his most recent. He'd moved to California in May, 2 months after the confrontation, supposedly, to start over. But Nicholas heard he was working as a consultant, his executive days over. His relationship with Melissa had ended within 3 weeks of their exposure in March. Once the thrill of secrecy was gone and reality hit, they turned on each other quickly. The kids saw Melissa twice a month, Sunday afternoons, supervised by a court-appointed observer. They'd started these visits in April, a month after the confrontation, and went out of obligation, not desire. Sarah told me their conversations were stilted, surface level. Melissa would ask about school, they'd give minimal answers. She'd try to explain herself, they'd change the subject. She keeps saying she made a mistake, Michael had said after their last visit. Like she accidentally tripped and fell into a 4-month affair. Michael, I'd started. Sorry, Dad, but I can't pretend she just made one bad choice, She made hundreds of bad choices, every day, for 4 months straight from September through January, he'd replied. I'd started therapy in April, working through the anger and betrayal. Dr. Martinez helped me see that my pain was valid but couldn't become my identity. The kids went too, separately, processing their own feelings of abandonment. We'd found our rhythm as a family of 4, quieter dinners but more honest conversations, movie nights where everyone actually showed up. Sarah helped Danny with homework while Michael taught him to cook. I'd learned to braid Sarah's hair for her concerts, though I'd never match Melissa's skill. There were hard days. Danny still sometimes cried at night, asking why he wasn't enough for her to stay. Michael's anger would flare when he saw intact families. Sarah worried about repeating her mother's patterns, about carrying that capacity for betrayal in her DNA, but we were healing. Together. Honestly. My phone buzzed, a text from Tom at work. Drinks Friday? There's someone I want you to meet. I wasn't ready for dating. Might never be. Trust, once shattered, doesn't easily rebuild. But I'd learned to leave possibilities open. Patricia Morrison had called last week. She was moving to Seattle, starting fresh with her kids. She thanked me for having the courage to expose the truth, for not letting them continue their lies indefinitely. We deserved better, she'd said. Yes, I'd agreed. We did. Now, watching my kids in the evening light, I thought about Melissa. Not with anger anymore, just a kind of distant pity. She'd had everything. A loving husband, amazing children, a comfortable life, and threw it away for a 4-month thrill with her boss. She'd gained excitement and ambition, lost a 20-year family. I didn't destroy Melissa's life. She did that herself the moment she chose betrayal over honesty 4 months before she even asked for that hall pass. I just made sure everyone could see what she'd already chosen to become. The mirror I'd held up that Monday hadn't created her reflection. It had only revealed what was already there, hidden beneath the makeup and lies and justifications. She'd have to look at that reflection every morning for the rest of her life, knowing that everyone else had seen it too. Sarah looked up from her essay. Dad, I'm writing about resilience, about how our family survived betrayal. Is that too personal? She asked. I walked over, kissed the top of her head. Write your truth, sweetheart. It's the only story worth telling, I replied. Outside, the sun set over Oakwood Heights, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new moments of grief and growth. But tonight, we were together, honest and whole in our broken places. That was enough. More than enough, it was everything. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.